Vocal Music and Medicine. I'm your host, Dr. Moshe Lewis. Really excited to be here at the Captivated Jazz Festival with none less than Najee, one of the greatest saxophonists, multi-instrumentalist, multi-award-winning artists on the planet. That's you. Well,
I paid you well to say that, didn't I?
I take a tip every day.
All right, brother.
I want to go back the clock of time and talk about, because I'm from New York.
Oh, yeah, okay.
The Elmhurst.
Oh, wow.
How Queens sewed into your life.
Sure.
Maybe just one story of somebody or something you saw when you were growing up there that really inspired you.
Well, I don't know if I can limit it to one story. There are really so many. I mean, growing up in that neighborhood in Queens, the neighborhood was just filled with great musicians. We moved there when I was 11 from Manhattan.
Right.
And once I started junior high school, I was exposed to so much in the community.
Sure.
So, just playing and knowing people like Tom Brown, Bernard Wright, Denzel Miller, Donald Blackman, Barry Johnson. I mean, they're local names. Omar Hakeem, Marcus Miller. We all grew up at the same time, man. So, yeah.
So I talked about, because I'm from there, so 30 years I lived there.
Uh-huh.
Just commuting to school, because you went to school up in the Bronx. A lot of people don't know that's not across the street.
Yeah, well, I went to high school at August Martin High School in Queens, but my first year of college, I went to Bronx Community College in the music department there.
Sure.
Stayed there for a year before I went on to audition for New England Conservatory of Music in Boston. Yeah, but yeah, I lived in the Bronx for a while, for about 2 years, I think. I had an apartment up there in the South Bronx. Yeah.
It's so important for artists to be really well studied, and you mentioned the conservatory. That's not something that typically a kid from Queens or in New York. What was that pathway like, and how important it is to be well versed in history?
It's important to be well versed, but in today's times, I don't think you need to go to a conservatory or there's so much information available now, particularly with YouTube and just being exposed to around great musicians is probably the greatest school I think a young musician can have. But you're right, being well-rounded is important. I think that's been the one thing that I've been benefited from. Being able to read music. When called upon to step into any situation and not feel like you didn't belong, playing straight ahead jazz as well as R&B and all that.
Oh, absolutely. You mentioned so many greats that have been an inspiration to you. Yeah. Tell us about why Coltrane is so important, even today, for us to still have an appreciation.
Sure. Well, he changed the culture of jazz for his time because he came along the time when what we call the modal jazz system began to develop. We went from the bebop era with Charlie Parker and Dizzy Gillespie and those people, but then there was the modal era, which involved Miles Davis, with young Herbie Hancock and Tony Williams, and then John Coltrane, who really elevated that whole thing, incorporating other elements of music that took it to a whole nother, changed the game, basically, yeah. So
even though I'm based in Subtle, maybe about 15 years ago, I saw my first performance with you, and you would always come to the audience, and you still do. Tell us about how you sort of changed the game in part by relating and touching and being out there with the people.
Well, I come from a background of growing up in New York City, playing in the local bands.
Right.
And as a matter of fact, a friend and I were talking earlier today, we didn't feel we did a job unless we got the people dancing, So, that was part of why you were there, to get the people to have a good time. So simply just translating that to what I do today is still in me, because it's more than just being able to listen to music. You got to create an experience that people want to come back. They talk about what you did and they tell others, and then, you got to go see that Najee show. It's a little different.
Right. Absolutely. You work with so many greats, and how does that creative process go? It seems like there's so much variability to it. Maybe sometimes the music chorus, maybe sometimes lyrics may come in there.
Yeah.
When you just sort of get inspiration, can you pretty much get it anywhere from the shower to the bathroom?
Yes, absolutely. But, I find that collaborating with people is my best inspiration. I like young writers, or not necessarily young, but great writers who can come up with good ideas that I can build on, and working collaborations with different artists always is a win, I was looking at my catalog the other day and I didn't realize how many people I've worked with on my own records. From Vesta to Jeffrey Osborne, George Duke, Marcus Miller, Freddie Jackson, Eric Benet, Eric Roberson, and the list just goes on and on and on, so, yeah.
And on that note, you really find it important to mentor someone some stage of young upcoming artists. Tell us about how that's so necessary today.
Well, it seems to me that it's a natural thing for me, because that's how it was for me coming up. I mean, I had the great pleasure of studying with the legendary Jimmy Heath, Frank Foster at Jazzmobile under Billy Taylor, the late Billy Taylor. So for me, I'm working with two artists who released albums that are doing very well. Not albums, but singles. Ellis Hamilton and Riley Richard. Yeah, the two of them, and they're doing very well at radio now. So
absolutely. Our show is called Music and Medicine. Right? When you hear those words, considering all these years that we sowed into our lives, giving your music as medicine, how does it speak to you?
Well, I think music is medicine. I know it has been for me, and I hear a lot of people say the same thing. I mean, I remember as a kid listening to Earth, Wind & Fire out forever, and I loved waking up to that, and even Al Jarreau in his early years. I mean, there were so many people I listened to back then. And for me, it kept some sense of sanity, but it also inspired me to want to be in the music game and to rest by skill.
I want to talk about one of those inspirations, your mother. How important, and just that influence in buying you a clarinet.
Yes. Well, I started clarinet in high school. I mean, junior high school.
Right.
Yeah, junior high school. And I switched to saxophone.
Right.
And I used to come home with the school instruments every day. Everybody would bug out in the house. But she one day saw that I was very serious, and she purchased my first alto saxophone. And that opened up a whole nother world.
Sure. And you mentioned your catalog. One of the things that comes across is all the work you've done with your brother. Talk to us about that relationship. Yes. So rare.
Well, he's been half of my success, honestly, because we came up in the local bands in Queens, a part of the community. And since that time, we went to school together, and he's always been a part of the business aspect of what I do, as well as recording some of my most famous albums. He was a producer on, like Tokyo Blue. So, I mean, I don't think it would have gotten this far without his involvement, honestly.
Sure, absolutely. And then finally, tell us about just sort of the inspiration that you hope people take away as they listen to music and feel the passion that you always communicate.
Yeah, I hope we provide an experience of release, like today playing here at Catalina. It's a great environment, as you can see. That they walk away with the feeling like we had a great time. Jazz is not dead.
Exactly.
And it can be a lot of fun.
Yes, absolutely. Sure. And it's not just for the older people.
Exactly. Yes,
Absolutely. Just words of wisdom that you might leave for some young artists who's coming up. It's a complicated business. It's a very diverse and complicated landscape even today.
Well, I would say two things. One is to first establish your voice, whatever that is. Sure. There's a saying that imitation is envy is ignorance, imitation is suicide. So I always say find your own voice and do what you do best. Don't try to be somebody else. We learn from other people, but trying to be somebody else, that job is already taken.
Right, sure.
Just be you, Sure. And find a way to market that aspect of yourself.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, well, you've done an amazing job. I know it hasn't been easy, but we've been the beneficiaries of all the years of hard work and the wonderful music. So we thank you so much. Absolutely, sure, absolutely. Thank you. All right.
Can you learn to love somebody the way somebody loves you?